You ever notice nobody really talks to men about sex after 60? I don't mean the medical stuff, not the take this pill conversations. I mean the real, honest, slightly uncomfortable truth. What do older men actually want? Not what they're supposed to want, not what looks good on paper. What's really going on behind closed doors, late at night, when the house is quiet? I'm Michael, from Aged and Confused. I've been married to Elle for 36 years, and today, I want to talk to you like we're sitting across from each other, maybe with a drink in hand. No judgment, just truth. Because what I found surprised even me. Let's start with something simple. The numbers. Because the world loves to pretend that men over 60 just fade out. That desire somehow packs up and leaves with your hairline. But that's not what the data says. Not even close. Up to 62% of men over 60 are still sexually active. In the US, about 73% of men in their late 50s and early 60s are still in the game. And here's the part that hit me. Sex isn't just physical at this age. It's tied to identity, to feeling alive, to still being seen. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like the desire is still there, but life, your body, your relationship, doesn't always line up with it? That's not just you. There's a gap. A gap between what men want and what they actually experience. And right there, that gap, that's where the taboo begins. Now this is where things get interesting. Because when you start looking at real stories, not stereotypes, you see a completely different picture. Men don't become less curious. If anything, they become more honest about it. Let's talk about something most people don't expect. BDSM. Yeah, I know. Stay with me. Because it's not what people think. A lot of older men exploring this aren't chasing extremes. They're chasing something deeper, control, or the release of it. A man spends his whole life holding things together. Then one day, he wonders what it feels like to not have to. I've had that thought myself. Not acting on it, just recognizing it. That quiet pull to step outside the role for a moment. That's what this is about. Not shock. Permission. There was a story about a man in his 70s, still curious, still driven. Over the years, he explored swinging, open relationships, different forms of connection outside tradition. And what stood out wasn't the behavior, it was this. His desire didn't fade. It outlasted everything else. And I'll be honest with you, after 36 years of marriage, I've had moments, quiet ones, where I wondered, what would something different feel like? Not because I wanted to leave, but because curiosity doesn't disappear just because you're committed. Most men just never say that part out loud. A lot of men won't admit this, but curiosity doesn't always mean action. Sometimes it looks like watching, imagining, letting your mind wander into places you never explored. Because one thing shows up again and again in research: fantasy doesn't age out. If anything, it gets richer, more layered, sometimes more daring. Not because men become reckless, but because they start asking, what did I miss? Now here's where things shift in a modern way. Digital intimacy. And this is quietly becoming one of the biggest spaces older men step into. Why? Because it removes the hardest parts of real-world connection: rejection, performance pressure, uncertainty, and replaces them with control, consistency, access. There are real stories, thousands of them, of men forming nightly routines with someone online, talking, laughing, sharing, feeling seen again. But there's a flip side. Some men end up chasing that feeling, financially, emotionally, sometimes losing more than they expected. Because again, it's not just about sex. It's about connection wrapped in fantasy. When you look at all of this together, there's a pattern. BDSM offers controlled vulnerability. Voyeurism creates safe distance. Digital intimacy builds an emotional buffer. Different paths, same need. To feel something deeply, without risking everything all at once. Now let's talk about something even more hidden. Something most couples will never admit, even if they've thought about it. cuckolding. And I want to approach this carefully, because the reality is more complex than people think. There are men, yes, even long-married men, who have explored this dynamic with their wives. Not out of weakness, not out of failure, but out of curiosity, and something deeper. I came across multiple accounts from men in their 50s, 60s, even 70s who opened up about it. And what struck me wasn't the act itself. It was how they felt afterward. Some described an unexpected sense of relief, like stepping out of the pressure to perform, even briefly. Others talked about seeing their partner in a new light, desired, wanted, alive in a different way. And strangely, that sometimes brought them closer emotionally afterward. One man said something that stuck with me. He said, "It wasn't about losing her. It was about realizing she wasn't something to own in the first place." That's a heavy thought. Other men told a very different story. Jealousy hit harder than expected. Emotions they thought they could control weren't so easy to manage. Some said it introduced distance, confusion, even regret. Because what sounds intriguing in theory feels very different in reality. When you step back, this isn't really about one specific lifestyle. It's about something deeper: control, letting go, rewriting identity, testing emotional boundaries. And sometimes, men discovering parts of themselves they didn't fully understand before. Now, I'll speak for myself here. After 36 years, I've learned something I didn't expect. You don't stop being curious. You just get better at deciding what matters. There are thoughts you explore, and there are lines you choose not to cross. But ignoring those thoughts completely? That's not honesty. Understanding them? That's where growth happens. After everything, the data, the stories, the quiet truths men don't usually say out loud, it comes down to this. Men want to feel alive. They want to feel wanted. They want to feel like there's still something left to discover. Even now. Maybe especially now. Maybe the real truth is this. Men don't become more taboo as they age. They just become more aware of the parts of themselves they kept hidden for years. If this felt a little too real, that's because it probably is. And if you've ever had thoughts you didn't quite know what to do with, you're not alone, not even close. I'm Michael, and this is Aged and Confused. If this conversation hit home for you, go ahead and subscribe. Around here, we talk about the things most people avoid, especially after 50. And I want to hear from you. Have your thoughts about intimacy changed over the years? Or are there things you've never said out loud? Drop a comment below. I read more of them than you might think. And if you know someone who would understand this conversation, share this video with them. Because sometimes the hardest truths are the ones we need to hear the most. I'll see you in the next one.